When you hear the words professional theater, you probably envision the big city, bright lights, flashy spectacles, or Broadway. The last thing you would imagine is a small town of 56 people called Arrow Rock, home of the Lyceum Theater.
The Lyceum Theater is a professional nonprofit theater located in mid-Missouri and is actually one of Missouri's oldest regional theaters.
When people ask me about the Lyceum Theater and Arrow Rock, I always describe it as being the most unlikely thing I can imagine. I mean, picture this, a town of 56 people with a 408-seat theater in it that's been around for more than 50 years. There's no reason in the world that should be, but because it is, we have something incredibly magic and special here in Arrow Rock.
How could such a theater survive in a town of only 56 people? To truly understand the Lyceum, we first have to start at the beginning.
In 1960, there was an old Baptist church that was going to be torn down for lumber, and a group of concerned citizens, the Lawrences and the Argybrights, stepped up and said, no, don't tear it down. We'd like to do something with that building. They weren't quite sure exactly what it was, but the Argybrights, I believe, had visited the Barter Theater in Virginia, and they began discussions with the Lawrences and decided that they should take this possibly almost condemned 19th century Baptist church and turn it into a theater. So at that point, they had the idea, but they didn't necessarily have the personnel. So they got on the phone and cold called Christian College, Columbia College today, and got a hold of Henry Swanson, who was the head of the theater department at that time. They asked Henry if he would be the theater's first artistic director, and I'm misquoting this, but he said something to the effect of, I believe that good theater done well will draw an audience wherever it is. And he then agreed to do that in Arrow Rock. And in 1961, the Lyceum opened their very first season with The Importance of Being Earnest. This was summer of 1961. And it was opening day, and preparations had been fast and furious leading up to the actual curtain of The Importance of Being Earnest. And they had just raised the brand new chandelier, and they had opened the house for the audience to come in. The audience sat on the pews. That was the seating at the time, the old church pews. And moments after the show was underway, a huge storm rolled into town, knocking out power through the whole village, and there was no way for them to actually continue doing the show. This is sort of a scary start for a brand new organization, the first moments that they meet their audience to learn that they can't actually do the thing that they want to do. The mission has been stopped, or so you would think. The audience sat there getting hotter and hotter because there was no air conditioning. And a gentleman named Tom Parker, who I never knew, but I've heard his name. Tom Parker grabbed a guitar from offstage, walked out, and just started playing some songs, whatever occurred to him. And the audience started singing along with him. And I think this is a very important moment for the Lyceum because it was the first identifiable moment when what was happening on stage connected with what was happening in the audience. Nobody was having the experience they expected, but they were having an experience of being connected to one another.
The Lyceum grew in audience, reputation, and size by building expansions around the original theater.
When the Lyceum began, it was the extent of the physical plant was the old Baptist church. Eventually, they crafted some dressing rooms behind the stage. It's where the administrative offices are today. There was one restroom, I believe, that was shared by the entire audience and maybe even the cast members. I'm not certain about that, but I think that's actually true. It wasn't until the early 70s, actually, that the Lyceum had its own housing facility. Prior to that, there were little cottages, some people would describe them as shacks, where the company members stayed during the summer. And in fact, in the early years, there wasn't even laundry. So costumes were cleaned down in the creek. There are photos of people actually scrubbing the costumes in the fresh water of the creek. Today, we have a housing facility that we opened in 2007, which is where all of our company members live over the course of the season.
Dorms are vitally important to the Lyceum. This is where all Lyceum company members, or cast and crew, stay while they work in Arrow Rock. It is essential that the Lyceum have fully functional living quarters like the dorms at all times. But what would happen if they didn't?
We got a knock on our door at 2 o'clock in the morning, and it was John Reed, who was the tech director for the summer. And he said, the dorm's on fire. What are we going to do? And so we called the fire department, and they all went out and started trying to put it out. But it pretty much totaled the dorm, smoke damage, and all the costumes that were down there, and everything was pretty devastated. So then for a couple of years, until the new dorm was built, we had people stay in our homes again. And so that was so much fun. It was really, really great to have an actor for a couple of summers to come in and live in our house.
It's hard to imagine that a theater that once managed to find all of its company members in a few little shacks outside of the theater has now gone through a couple of different housing options. We have what we opened in 2007. We thought that's going to be plenty. But as it turns out, with these larger shows, we need more housing outside of what we currently own. So we're very fortunate to live in a wonderful town of people who will open their homes or bed and breakfasts to our visiting company members. And that's where many of them stay. And for many of them, that is an opportunity to really interface with the community and get to know the people who actually live here year-round.
There are many phenomenal things about the Lyceum, but one of the most amazing is the caliber of talent they're able to bring to their stage. How does a theater in such a small town find such talent for the shows to come?
I don't know what I can actually tell you about the original casting process at the Lyceum. I know that there were some amazing actors that graced our stage. I'm often told stories in the grocery store about Paige Williams or Billy Van Arsdale. But today, we get the word out about the productions that we are doing, and we receive upwards of 12,000 submissions from the New York City market to be considered just for an audition.
The theater has become more and more well-known in New York City. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of actors now in New York who have heard about the theater, heard about the Lyceum, and I hear that's a good place to work. You know, and they'll call us or they'll email us if they have an audition for the Lyceum, and listen, I heard it was really a great place to work, and I've got an audition. Do you have any hints? You know, they're wanting to work here.
Once Quinn has sorted through all 12,000 submissions, the next step is to audition the potential talent.
Now we trim that down to a matter of maybe 300 or 400 people that we actually see during a 2-week period in New York City, and during that period we see principal characters for all of the individual roles in our season. We also see dancers. We have an entire day where we test the dancing abilities of some amazingly skilled performers. And from that 2-week period, we put together our season. Now we have many Lyceum regulars who come back year after year, and they really are the stars for our audience. They have become members of our audience's family, even if they've never actually met personally. They look forward to seeing such and such playing such and such because they loved them in such and such that they saw before. And that, I think, is one of the great things about being a season subscriber at the Lyceum. You get to see one actor maybe in multiple shows within the same season. And to see the level of skill with which they can go from one role into the next is an incredible, incredible thing.
Having all these actors come in from across the country obviously involves a lot of travel. So how do these big city folks get to a rural town in the middle of Missouri?
They fly into either Kansas City or St. Louis. They hop on a shuttle. It drops them off at a McDonald's in Boonville. Then our company manager shows up in a van to pick up these company members. And as they drive deeper and deeper into the cornfields, you can see their eyes getting wider and wider and wider, thinking, what have I done? There's no chance that there's a theater out here. That just can't be possible. And for maybe the first week, there is some culture shock. There's no Starbucks, there's no ATM, there's no cell service, and you show up in the first week of May and you drive around Arrow Rock and you see all of these actors walking around with phones searching desperately for some sort of connection. That goes away though, and by the time a company member has finished their job with us, they are more often than not asking about when will the next opportunity be.
All of these people in New York all want to come here because they love being here. Most of the time when they get here, they have a bit of culture shock. They have no idea what to do when their cell phone doesn't work and all of that, but they learn really quickly that this is a place that gets you away from that it's not about being tied to technology, it's about creating human experiences that ability to connect with someone that in many ways I feel like we lose when we're in other places. You don't necessarily see that at the majority of theaters. You find a lot of the local people, and it's great to support the local artists, but being able to have a network that extends beyond just the local is really, really fantastic. We get to have directors from LA working with actors from Chicago, St. Louis, New York, and all of a sudden those networks all start expanding further and further. And the audience gets to come in and experience the very best people from all across the country who are just genuinely good people who come out here because they love being here. And when people love what they're doing, they're going to create better art.
When I came to Arrow Rock for the first time as an actor right after graduating from college, I was driving in my car, completely missed the town, drove right past it. And eventually found a way, this was pre-cell phones, found my way back. And in some form or fashion, I've been a part of this organization ever since. Arrow Rock has this incredible theater, but it also has so much more, and that really is a big part of the Arrow Rock experience. There are wonderful restaurants, bed and breakfast shops that all of our company members enjoy, but all of our audience members do as well. And the very special people who run all of those very special businesses make the Arrow Rock experience one that is unmatched in my mind.
In 1981, that next summer, I became a resident artist here at the Lyceum.
And that was the old theater.
And that was the old theater. Yes, before this new renovation, we were in the old theater, which was a 99-seat. And if you've been to the Lyceum in Arrow Rock, Missouri, you will see the lobby, and that was the complete theater.
When money had been raised, thanks to a generous allotment of NAP credits through the Department of Economic Development, then the new auditorium where we are today was built. It was ready for the opening of the 1993 season, which opened with Brigadoon.
That's when I met Tim, and we did Brigadoon in the new theater. It was the first show that they did in the new big theater. What makes the Lyceum different from a Broadway show or a First National Tour is the obvious is that it's much smaller. It's a much smaller house, much smaller theater.
It's like we are here now. It feels very, very natural, and you don't have to put on all of the, you know,
have to make it big.
It's so big, and the sound and the production values.
Returning audience members know exactly what to expect from the Lyceum. But for new visitors, what would be their first impressions?
One of the special thrills for me at the Lyceum is that this is often the entry point for first-time audience members. Young or old, a lot of times I have a conversation with people who have never seen a play before. They see their very first play on our stage. And that is a responsibility we take very seriously. We want to set an expectation of quality so that when those folks fall in love with theater, as they're going to when they see a show here at the Lyceum, they can then go out into the world and they will know when they're seeing quality, because hopefully that's what we've introduced them to at the outset.
You know, it's something that's interesting that people talk about when they come see a production here is they always say how good this is, and this is better than Broadway. And we really appreciate that compliment. Broadway has huge budgets, a lot larger than what we are able to afford to produce productions here. However, I think what that comes down to and why people make that comment is the experience that they have here. Being able to see a show like Les Mis or South Pacific that we've produced this season. Yes, you could see that on Broadway, a big splashy spectacle production. Here, we try to do the same production, it's just on a smaller scale, and I think it's because of the intimate setting, the experience people have when they see a production here is just because they become more engaged in the production, that they feel that, wow, this is as good as the Broadway show I've seen, or even better.
That quality of performance doesn't just happen, though. There's a lot of rehearsal that goes into it, which is another amazing thing about the Lyceum.
A lot of theaters have, 5 weeks to put on a show. We have maybe 2 weeks, and usually that's not even full days. It's like maybe 5 hours a day to rehearse a show. And if we have a performance going on over here, we can't rehearse the next show. But, it amazes me what we can do on this stage in such a little time. This season in particular, I love Les Mis. It's one of my favorite shows. And when Quinn said we were going to do it, I was like, okay. I mean, it's just a huge production, and that's a lot to do into a 2-week period. And we did it, and I think it was one of the best things we've done.
All of that work begins in earnest at the beginning of May. And rehearsals for the first show are unencumbered by any other production. It's the first one of the season. We don't have anything else going on. We rehearse in the old public schoolhouse on Main Street in Arrow Rock. It's a wonderful, charming space. It is one that requires a great deal of creativity as far as logistics, because we have giant shows to get put together, and we have to do that in a smaller space than what many other theaters have the opportunity to make use of. But we figure out a way to make that work. And those rehearsals begin until opening night. And unlike a lot of places, boy, that's when things really start rolling here, because we open, say, on a Wednesday night. Thursday morning, we start rehearsal for the next show. So from the beginning of June through the end of September, we have something happening on stage at all times. We also have a show in rehearsal at all times. And we're very fortunate to have an incredible stage manager who can oversee that entire process. There are so many moving parts. It's hard for folks to necessarily imagine, sitting in the audience, how many pieces of the puzzle there are, but Tony puts them all together.
Everything is taken care of during the rehearsal period, but a lot of tasks are handled outside of the allotted time by more people than just the actors.
While rehearsals are in full tilt down at the schoolhouse, all of our shops here in this building are whirring at a constant level. There are many late nights in our scene shop as well as in our costume shop, where a group of maybe 6 people are building all of our scenery, and maybe a group of 3 or 4 people in the costume shop are building the costumes. That's something not everyone realizes. We don't pull all of these things off of a truck. We build them from the ground up.
During the rehearsal process, I am in charge of scheduling the hours for the actors that we rehearse, making sure that we take proper breaks. It is a union. There are union rules that govern how long an actor can rehearse before taking a break, so I monitor that. When we come onto the stage for technical rehearsals, everything hopefully is ready to go, and we can, we have what we need. The furniture is all right, the props are all right, the sound cues are there, take down all the blocking, the stage directions that the director gives to the actors. I record that into what we call a prompt book, and so that when the next rehearsal comes and an actor doesn't remember where they went, or maybe even the director doesn't remember what we had decided, I have a record of it so that we don't lose rehearsal time, hopefully, trying to figure out what we did yesterday.
As resident scenic designer, I tend to design a lot of the scenery for all of the shows that happen here, and I work with the directors to figure out how a show will look, how it will function, as in what scenes need to come on stage, off stage, how I make that happen.
There are also sets that have to be designed and assembled. Where is all that scenery made and stored?
In the early days of the Lyceum, you would find carpenters and painters actually laying scenery out on the streets of Arrow Rock to paint them because that was the only place they had to do it. Today we have an incredible scene shop, twice as large as what you would find in almost any other theater. We're very fortunate to have the space that we have, which is very helpful when we are turning around our shows in such quick succession. The truth is, if you go out to the Lyceum Scene Shop in June or July, you'll probably have the opportunity to see about 3 productions in process, because we start one, and before we've even finished it, we've actually started work on the next one.
Another vital part of the theater that gets overlooked far too often are the costume designers and what they do.
It used to be when the Lyceum began that the costume shop was above where my office is today. It is at best an attic, and it's hard for me to imagine all of the wonderful work that I know was created in that tiny, tiny little space. Today that serves as additional costume storage. Every nook and cranny in this building is filled with props, costumes, scenery, everything we can keep, we do, because it pains us so much to throw anything away.
This is the new costume shop, mostly occupied by articles of clothing used in previous productions that are now being reused, redesigned, or repurposed for new shows to come.
Up until the 2013 season, the orchestrations for our musicals were canned. They were created on a computer and brilliantly done, but that doesn't have the living, breathing experience that a live orchestra can. So in 2013, we implemented a live orchestra, which lives underneath our stage. Our actors on stage are able to communicate with the conductor via monitors that they can see from the stage. And that's been a major improvement and honestly a transformative experience. The musicals are more living and breathing than they ever were before, thanks to some amazing musicians that work for us in our pit.
Now that all the individual but collaborative parts of this theater are ready for the show, it's time for the audience to enjoy the fruits of their labor.
When it's time for the show to open, and it always happens, there are, of course, butterflies throughout the building. We've had a very short period of time in which to prepare for opening, but we work with the best professionals around. So there's never any real concern that things aren't going to go well. But there is a special, unique excitement about opening. And one of the things I love about openings, or really anytime we have an audience coming into the building, is many of the people that visit us each year have not been here before. We're really tired of this being described as the best kept secret in Missouri. We don't want it to be a secret. But it is, it's really exciting to see someone who hasn't been here before walking through what used to be the entirety of the Lyceum, which is now our lobby, the old Baptist church, and into the auditorium today, and to see expectations blown out of the water.
The joy of creating that theater out in Arrow Rock, Missouri is the fact that we don't need to worry about the critics. We don't need to worry about New York Times. We get to create it to be able to create a really amazing show. It's not so much about the money, it's not about being a part of the machine that just cranks out a show that is formulaic. It's about creating art and about creating something that the audience here is going to respond to and that we as artists feel fulfilled by doing.
There's more room to create, which you don't always get on a big,
in commercial
big
theater.
Commercial theater,
Yeah.
big tour.
You can take some more artistic license, you can explore some different areas, and the cast can do things that are not always traditional from the standpoint of, a Wicked or a Phantom of the Opera or Les Miserables, something that's really kind of etched and it's done pretty much in that same version every time.
I can say without a doubt that the quality of stuff I see here and the quality of actors and talent that we bring in from around New York and other parts of the country, I think without a doubt that we are comparable to anything that can be produced out there, and not without the big budgets that they have. So I think we do a stellar job here.
And I don't know if it's the pressure of having only that small amount of time or what, but it always comes together. You know, it's just kind of like magic. Somehow, some way, you know, because of the people that are here and their commitment to putting on a good show, it just comes together.
Once you've seen these incredible people put on such an amazing show, it's hard not to wonder what they do with any spare time they may have.
What do company members do on their day off? Time off is limited, honestly, considering our approach to things. We always have a show in production. We always have another one in rehearsal. We're always pre-planning 5 or 6 shows ahead. So there isn't a great deal of free time, honestly. But when there is, I think company members generally like to visit the various communities near us. They go to Columbia, they go to Sedalia, they go to Marshall. They see what's happening in mid-Missouri. Or they just spend time in Arrow Rock. They spend time on the boardwalk, they enjoy our restaurants, or they just take a stroll through Arrow Rock, which is, I'm telling you, after the sun sets, walking through Arrow Rock is one of the most beneficial things a human being can do for themselves. It is such a rejuvenating experience, and that's one of the things that many of our company members go home and talk about. They worked incredibly hard, harder than maybe they have worked in their entire careers, but they go home feeling rested and fulfilled, like a really, really good working vacation.
Other than the size and beauty of the town and the talent of the company members, another key part of the theater is the leadership.
We're blessed because Quinn, as artistic director, is able to go out across the country and find some of the best talent from all across the country and bring it here to be able to work with us.
Quinn does a wonderful job of casting and hiring for the technical staff and the actors. And it's just a wonderful group of people.
It's really kind of a mystery in many ways. A little theater out in the middle of nowhere, there's absolutely no reason that it should succeed. But it does, because we have so many good people coming in and wanting to make the Lyceum a magical place, a magical experience. People come here because we work together so well, because we're a family.
Even though the people change from year to year with all the different actors that we bring in, we still have a lot that return and have created like a second family for me. So it's more than just a theater. It's like I said, to me, it's a home. It's a very special place.
I think part of the reason we come back or want to come back as often as possible has a lot to do with the people in the town. Mm-hmm. Not just how pretty the town is, yes, how quiet it is, and just I think a lot of it has to do with the personalities that are here. We love the people here.
It's such an honor and a privilege to be part of the Lyceum. This place has completely changed my life in many ways. I remember after a couple years of working here, there was just one night where I sat and chatted with one of our principal actors, and after talking with him for about a half an hour, I felt so moved that I had to go sit down and compose this very long email to Quinn to thank him for bringing me here, because it was that night that I started understanding what the Lyceum was, that it wasn't just a place to crank out theater and to make a buck, that it was a place to bring really phenomenal people together. I never had experienced a time when I was around so many people who were good-hearted as the people that I found here.
At the end of the day, it all comes down to this. No matter where, no matter when, no matter how, all it takes is amazing people to make something that would otherwise be a dream come to life.
From its very beginnings, the Lyceum Theater has existed because of the family that allows it to exist. That family exists from the administrative offices to backstage to onstage to our audience. And it is a great privilege to be a part of the most unlikely theater maybe in the United States. The Lyceum Theater shouldn't be, but because it is, that's all the more reason that people should come and be a part of it.
Okay, hold on. It's recording. It's focusing. Okay, ready? Okay.
Hello, I'm Elizabeth Broadhurst, and I've had the privilege of working at the Arrow Rock Lyceum Theater the summer of 2014 and the summer of 2015. And as you can see by this beautiful sketch that I have here in my New York apartment, the Arrow Rock is very special to me.
Hi, I'm Michael Haney. The Lyceum Theater in Arrow Rock, Missouri has provided me the opportunity to direct many of the great American classics. You Can't Take It With You, The Man Who Came to Dinner, Driving Miss Daisy, and Lend Me a Tenor. It also provides me the opportunity to come home to my roots, near my family in Kansas City, and to join my larger family in Arrow Rock, the family that Quinn has created at the Lyceum Theater, the designers, the actors, the staff. It's one of my favorite places to work in the world.
Hey, my name is Warren. I've done 11 shows at the Lyceum over the past 4.5 seasons. I really think it should be called the Arrow Rock Lyceum Theater Company. Just putting that out there. Because there's really a company feeling. That is not true everywhere. I think much of this has to do with the fact that many of the artists that are at the theater at any given time are returning to the theater. They've been there before, or they've been hired to do more than one thing. And even if the audience doesn't know why, it makes it wonderful for them. It makes the work more exciting, more alive, more artistic.
Hello! My name is Mallory Hawks. I live in New York City. I've lived here for almost 10 years. And I've done 9 shows at the Lyceum. You can definitely tell I'm in New York. There's a lot of sirenage happening. The Lyceum was my first professional job after graduating college. And it was that final boost of confidence that I needed before moving to a big city like New York. And I've gone back every few years. Oh, here we go. And you know, it's amazing how many performers they bring in from big cities like New York, and the networking that happens when you're in a show there, it's invaluable. I'm actually on my way to rehearsal for a workshop of a new musical I'm doing, and there are a couple of Tony nominees involved, and it's all because of a domino effect that took place, you know, beginning 9 years ago. Because of a director I worked with there recommended me to somebody who recommended me to somebody, and it's really a gem, and I will always consider it a second home. Farewell. It's very loud as the trains and sirens pass.
Hi, I'm Jerry Vogel. I've been a professional actor for 32 years, and that career began at the Arrow Rock Lyceum Theater in 1984. And since then, I've been in dozens of shows at the Rock, some of my favorite roles. I started out playing kids, then I was their dads, now I'm the grandpa. And most recently, I played a ghost. So I'm not sure where I go from here, but if The Rock wants me, I'll be there.
This theater is phenomenal, not just in everything that happens behind the scenes, but the audiences. I mean, what you as an audience bring to us is fantastic.
There's something about this theater in Arrow Rock. It's the relationship between the artist, the story, and that very special audience that finds a way to be there that is like nowhere else. I've worked all over the country, and there's a certain alchemy that happens between those four walls at the Arrow Rock Lyceum Theater that is extremely special. And I just feel extremely lucky to have been a part of it.
I love working at the Lyceum Theater. What a gem it is. A gem of a theater and a gem of a town. And I feel so lucky to work there. In fact, when I tell my actor friends in New York City that I'm going there and what I'm going to do, and they say, how do you get to do that? And I say, because I'm lucky. I love, among other things, walking out of the theater through the lobby and talking to the audience, not because they like my performance or not. They just love the whole experience. They embrace the theater and the town and us as a company of artists who've come to mid-Missouri. So cheers to the Lyceum Theater. What a great place.
Hey, this is Jay Russell. I'm at Two River Theater in Red Bank, New Jersey, about to open in a new play, but I wanted to speak for a moment about the Arrow Rock Lyceum Theater. I've been fortunate enough to act there 2 different summers, in Bye Bye Birdie and recently in Spider's Web and Rumors, and I've had an extraordinary time there. I think most of it has to do with Quinn Gresham and the incredible home that he has given to all of these brilliant, wonderful, talented actors and designers and theater artists. And then I'd also just like to say that the audiences there are some of the most supportive, loving audiences I've ever performed for. So I hope to come back many summers to Arrow Rock, Missouri, and keep working there, and I hope the theater just grows and grows. Thank you so much.
People ask me a lot of times, why do you like to go back to the Lyceum Theater? It's very simple. There are 2 reasons. Number 1, the whole company works together to put on great productions. And number 2, that company, the actors, the directors, the designers, the crew, they form a family. And it's a great feeling of togetherness, like nowhere else I've ever been. For those reasons, I love going back to the Lyceum.
Hey everybody in Arrow Rock, my name is Ben Hope, this is Katie Barton, my wife, and we are so happy to reach out to you from our living room in our apartment here in New York City.
We think Arrow Rock is a really, really special place, and we actually have a pretty funny story about Arrow Rock. We played Tammy Wynette and George Jones in Stand By Your Man this past summer, and at 4 a.m. the morning of our closing performance, Ben came down with acute appendicitis and had to have his appendix removed, which meant that he could not attend our closing performance. The whole team there at Arrow Rock leapt into action as if Ben was part of their own family and as if they had known him for decades. Mm-hmm. Quinn was at the hospital with us within 30 minutes of finding out that we were there. Everyone just took care of business. And Steve, I think, was there with you at the hospital in Columbia when you
came out of surgery.
Yeah, when you came out of surgery. And we were, the rest of the cast was on stage doing the performance, minus George Jones, No Show Jones. And I think there's a lot to be said for the audience response as we all got up there kind of vulnerable without one of our leading men, and there's Quinn, and he explains the situation to the audience, and they have such a connection to Quinn and that theater that they were along for the ride with us the whole time, and they loved it. And the fact that those are people that drive 2 and 3 hours from neighboring towns. I mean, they're not driving down the road to see these shows, which is shocking. It's amazing that that a small theater in the middle of the country can draw such crowds and have such loyal patronage. And I think it comes from a team that has a lot of heart, and that heart trickles down into every aspect of the theater, and it really shows. And I think whether the patrons know it or not, they feel it when they're sitting in the seats.
I don't know what it is that makes the Rock so special. I think it's first of all, it's family. It's the family of artists, the family of locals, and of audience who come there during those summer months and converge in such an idyllic setting and bring these shows to life. The caliber of talent that comes, the audience that comes back year after year. I love the walk or riding your bike home after a matinee, and the people will be walking the sidewalk, heading back over to a restaurant or their cars or to the shopping, and they'll stop you and tell you why they loved the show that day, what about the performances touched them, what they laughed at, how they can't wait to see the next one. And when you have a place that gives you that kind of gift of artisans coming together and really touching an audience, there's nothing like it.
Hi, I'm Michael Rothar, and I live in Los Angeles, and that's the Pacific Ocean. For those of us that live in LA, we say, that's in our backyard. But I want to talk to you for a second about what's in your backyard. The Arrow Rock Lyceum Theater. And I can tell you, you're luckier than we are. And here's why. For over 40 years, I've worked in theaters all over the country, from tiny storefront theaters to Broadway. And I can tell you, it's rare to find a theater with the skill, the quality, the commitment, and the heart of the Lyceum Theater. Quinn Gresham, Steve Brittani, and the entire Arrow Rock Lyceum family know that the most important part of a show is you, the audience. Over the years, again and again, I've seen them serve you with courage, integrity, and commitment. Because they know that's what you want, and they're determined to give it to you. And that's the reason why theater professionals like myself come from all over the country each summer to work at the Arrow Rock Lyceum Theater. Because we're welcomed, we're supported, we're encouraged, and mainly because we're challenged to help make first-class theater for you. We just have an ocean, but you have the Arrow Rock Lyceum Theater. Please support it. And if you see me on Main Street, please say hi. Thanks for listening.
Imagine seeing your favorite play with the final scene omitted, or the greatest musical of all time with no big 11 o'clock number. That's what our productions at the Lyceum would look like if we only produced the part of the play that was covered by ticket sales. Your support is what allows us to bridge the gap between ticket sales and production costs, and helps us bring the amazing actors to our stage and underwrite the expense of costumes, lighting, sound, props, all of the things that make a Lyceum production special. Your support also allows us to introduce new theater goers to Lyceum theater magic. We've had an incredible 50-plus first years. Your support is what will allow us to strengthen our artistic offerings, expand our campus, and grow our community outreach. Please join us in being a part of the next stage of the Lyceum Theater.